Hello dear students, this is Anil Patni from Department of Microbiology and Biotechnology, Shiv Institute of Sciences, run by Shiv Ronak Foundation and which is affiliated with Gujarat University. So, today we are going to study criteria for growth measurement. That is a topic from unit number 4, that is microbial growth, and this is in the continuation with the earlier session, and in this session we are going to learn determination of cell mass and determination of cell activity. So basically determination of cell mass is depends on the mass of the bacterial cell, or you can say bacterial growth. So the growth results into synthesis of new cellular material, and therefore its result into the increase in the cell mass. So methods used to determine cell mass can be useful to measure the growth, and every cell possesses a specific amount of cell mass, and this can be also useful to find out probable number of organisms present in the growth culture. And there are various methods to determine cell mass in the medium, and that is determination of nitrogen and protein content, nucleic acid content, dry weight of cells, or you can say packed cell volume, and there is a main useful method that is very important to determination of cell mass, that is turbidometric method. It is very useful to determination of cell mass. So in this session, that is determination of cell mass, we are going to study these different methods. So let us start with determination of nitrogen, or you can say protein content. The major constituent of cell material is protein, and since nitrogen is a characteristic part of proteins, one can measure a bacterial population or cell crop in terms of bacterial nitrogen. Bacteria average approximately 14% of nitrogen on a dry weight basis. Although this figure is subject to some variation introduced by changes in culture condition or differences between species. To measure growth by this technique, you must first harvest the cells and wash them free of medium, and then perform a quantitative chemical analysis of nitrogen. Bacterial nitrogen determinations are somewhat laborious and can be performed only on specimens free of all other source of nitrogen. And the method is applicable only for concentrated population. For this and other reasons, this procedure is used primarily in the research. So basically, when we are going to determine the cellular nitrogen, we have to first harvest the cell mass from the media. So by the filtration method or extraction method or centrifugation, we can easily extract your cell mass from the media, and we can use their cell mass for the determination of nitrogen. Cell mass can also be estimated by measuring the concentration of some cellular substances like proteins, DNA and RNA, sulfur and phosphorus, etc. because its concentration is constant in each cell. An increase in the microbial population will be reflected in higher total protein levels. And chlorophyll determination can also be used to measure phototrophic protist and cyanobacterial population. And the quantity of ATP can be used to estimate the amount of living microbial mass. Apart from carbon and nitrogen, sulfur and phosphorus are other major essential constituent of cell. So, Chemical estimation of cellular phosphorus and sulfur can also be useful to measure cell mass. So, let us come to determination of dry weight of cell. So, this is the most direct approach for quantitative measurement of cell mass. But it can be used only with very dense suspensions. So, in this method, cells are extracted from the medium by the various methods like centrifugation or a filtration method. So, with the use of these two methods, we can easily separate the cell mass from the medium, and after that, they are dried at 50 to 55 degrees Celsius temperature. So, cells become dried, and that cell mass can be used for the further determination of cell mass. Now, that dry weight may not always be indicative for the amount of living material in cell. For example, sometimes the intracellular reservoir material, that is poly-B-hydroxybutyrate, can accumulate in Azobacter species at the end or in the log phase of the growth, and sometimes during stationary phase also. So, they can finally comprise up to 74% of the dry weight of the cell. So, in this case, dry weight may continue to increase without any cell growth. But for many organisms, the determination of dry weight is an accurate and reliable way to measure growth and is widely used in research. So, with the exceptions, as I discussed, this method is widely used. So now come to the next method, that is determination of packed cell volume. In that, now we know that each bacterial cell belonging to a particular species that has specific volume. Now, whenever we grow the organism, the cell number are increased, and so the cell mass is also increases, and overall cell volume is get increased. So, in this method, cell volume of bacteria can be used to measure a growth. So, how we can do that? So, in that, after the cultivation of any bacteria in the liquid medium, after the inoculation and after the incubation, whenever growth occurs, what we do is we do centrifugation of that culture media with the cells. So what happens? Cell gets settled down at the bottom of the bottle, and the liquid medium, which is on the upper side of the bottle. So that settled cell mass is measured as a packed cell volume. Now let us come to the turbidometry method for the determination of cell mass. Now I already mentioned earlier that the turbidometry method is most widely used during the cell mass determination. So it is a rapid and very selective method for measuring a cell mass, and that is also known as spectrophotometry method. So now everyone has tried to see through a fog, realizes that visibility is reduced in proportion to the density of the fog and the distance between the observer and the object that he or she is looked at. So this is because each droplet of water in the fog absorbs and scatters the light passing through it, and the more droplets in the light path, the less one can see. So similarly, it is also happen with the bacteria, that bacteria in the suspension absorb and scatter the light passing through them, so that a culture of more than 10 raised to 7 to 10 raised to 8 cell per milliliter appears turbid to the naked eye. A spectrophotometer or a colorimeter can be used for turbidometric measurements of cell mass. Turbidity is a turbimetry is a simple rapid method for following growth. However, the culture to be measured must be dense enough to register some turbidity on the instrument. And it may not be possible to measure culture grown in deeply colored media or a culture who produces color. So, as I mentioned in earlier slide, that spectrophotometry depends on the fact that microbial cells scatter light that strikes them. Because microbial cells in a population are of roughly constant in size, the amount of scattering is directly proportional to the biomass of cells present and indirectly related to the cell number. Now you can see there are two figures shown in this slide. In the first figure, see here there is a less growth of bacteria, and here there is a high amount of growth is shown. Now how we can differ the both? So in the first figure, turbidity is less, but in the second figure, bacterial turbidity is in higher amount. Now, there is a screen in which you can see a absorbance. Now, what is the absorbance? So now, what is the absorbance? So when greater turbidity is there and less light is transmitted to the medium, so the extent of light scattering can be measured by a spectrophotometer, and that is called a absorbance. That is also known as optical density. So when turbidity is high, light is more scattered and absorbance is, that is optical density, that also becomes higher. So now we can say that absorbance is almost linearly related to the cell concentration at absorbance levels less than about 0.5. If the sample exceeds this value, it must first be diluted and then absorbance measures. Thus, population size can be easily measured as long as the population is high enough to give detectable turbidity. So, if sample have a higher turbidity, we have to dilute the sample first and then we check their absorbance and conclude the result. So we can get more accurate result about that more turbid solutions. So with the completion of different methods for the determination of cell mass, now let us come to the pros and cons of the method used for that determination of cell mass. So the most convenient method is turbidometric method, that is that is measured by spectrophotometer, or we can also use colorimeter for it. But there are also disadvantage of determination of cell mass, that the major disadvantage is in cell mass determination not only living cells are measured, in that dead and living, means living and non-living, both cells are measured in this method. And the other methods that including specially determination of cell constituents such as nitrogen, protein, nucleic acid, phosphorus, sulfur, they only have a academic value, and in the routine they have more complexity while performing the actual estimations. Because while performing the estimation of nitrogen or protein or nucleic acid or DNA or RNA or sulfur, phosphorus, in that media constitutes may interfere the most, and in the routine they are very complex methods. So let us come to the another topic, that is measurement of cell activity. So we already know that increase in growth causes increase in both that is cell number and cell mass. So it is also reflect as a overall increase in the metabolic activity of the culture. So this measurement of cell activity can also be used as a criteria to determine the growth. So in that various criteria can be used, that is determination of rate of respiration by measuring CO2 evolved or oxygen consumed. We can also determine the products formed during the growth. So while organism grows, their metabolic activity get actives. So while that they produce different acids, different enzymes. So by estimating that we can also measure the cell activity. So in that some organic acids like lactic acid, alcohols, some enzymes are also used to measure a cell activity. Determination of amount of carbon source, usually glucose or fructose or lactose are used as a carbon source for the organism. So determination of that carbon source is also used to measure a cell activity. Now let us come to the another topic that is leftover from the earlier session, that is how we can conduct the continuous culture system. So first of all we have to know that what is continuous culture system. So earlier we studied that in the closed system, that is also known as batch culture, in which nutrients are not renewed nor waste are removed. So logarithmic growth lasts only for a few generations and soon stationary phase is reached. But it is possible to grow microorganisms in a system with constant environmental conditions maintained through continual provision of nutrition and removal of waste. So such system is known as continuous culture system. This system can maintain a microbial population in exponential growth, growing at a known rate and at a constant biomass concentration for extended periods. So, these continuous systems are essential for research in many areas, particularly microbial ecology. For example, interaction between microbial species in environmental conditions resembling those in a freshwater lake or pond can be modeled. Continuous culture systems also are used in food and industrial microbiology. So, there are two major types of continuous culture system, that is commonly named as chemostat and turbidostat. So come to the chemostat. That a chemostat is constructed so that the rate at which a sterile medium is fed into a culture vessel is the same as the rate at which the medium containing microorganism is removed. So you can see into the figure that this is a vessel containing a fresh medium with the limiting amount of essential nutrients. And this vessel is for removal of used medium. So from this vessel, fresh medium is introduced into a culture vessel, and with the help of this vial, used medium get removed from the culture vessel. So the culture medium for the chemostat has a limited quantity of essential nutrients like vitamins, proteins, etc. Because if nutrient is limiting, then growth rate is determined by the rate at which sterile medium is fed into the growth chamber. The final cell density depends on the concentration of the limiting nutrient. The rate of nutrient exchange is expressed as the dilution rate, and the rate at which medium flows through the culture vessel relative to vessel volume. So both population size and generation time are related to the dilution rate. So when dilution rate are very low, only limited supply of nutrient is available and the microbes can conserve only a limited amount of energy. So the energy must be used for only cell maintenance, not for the cell growth or replication. Then when we provide enough nutrients, both maintenance and reproduction, the cell density will begin to rise. So we can say that growth rate can increases at that time. And when dilution rate is too high, microorganisms can actually be washed out of the culture vessel before reproducing because the dilution rate is greater than the maximum growth rate. So in short, in the chemostat we can say that if the cell mass is higher in number in the culture vessel, at that time extra medium is removed from the vessel, or else we can say that used medium is removed from the vessel and new fresh medium is introduced into the culture vessel, so that growth rate or we can say reproduction rate is get stable. And the chemostat is useful for basically production of any metabolites. The second type of continuous culture system is the turbidostat. So the turbidostat has a photocell that measure a turbidity of the culture in the growth vessel. The flow rate of media through the vessel is automatically regulated to maintain a predetermined turbidity because turbidity is related to cell density. The turbidostat maintains a desired cell density. Turbidostats differ from chemostats in several ways, like the dilution rate in a turbidostat varies rather than remaining constant. and turbidostate's culture medium contains all nutrients in excess amount. So none of the nutrient is limiting. A turbidostate operates best at high dilution rates. A chemostat is most stable and effective at lower dilution rates. So we can say that in turbidostate, turbidity is measured. If turbidity get increased, then new fresh media is introduced into the vessel. But in chemostat, it is upon the nutrient medium. If nutrient quantity is decreased in the culture vessel, then fresh medium is introduced into the vessel. So this is a major difference between chemostat and turbidostate, that in chemostat fresh medium introduced on the basis of nutrient availability of culture vessel, and in turbidostate fresh medium is introduced when turbidity of the culture vessel get increased or decreased. So here we are completed with bacterial growth. So I hope you all clear about all the topics regarding bacterial growth, and from the very next session we are start with the chemotherapeutic agent as a growth inhibitor. So thank you so much, and if you have any query you can ask anytime on the mail. Thank you.